everyone, this is Kiminina Mori, and I wanted to do a video about my characters' stories. And since I have a pretty big collection and they're all based on the different novels that I'm writing, I kind of have to do it in parts based on each group in a story. So for this is my first group that I'm doing, and they're in a story called A Dead Man's Tale that I'm writing. And I'll probably put information on this video after the point of which it gets published, links to where you can buy it or something, if anyone's interested. But so I won't go into too much detail for spoilers because I kind of like having it be a surprise for everybody. But so basic general background, which would probably be like on the back of a book with a bit more, is my leading guy is Marcellus, and he is my Rowindoll Oliver Head on the Dollshe Pure Body. And so Marcellus Marduk, he sort of this little Tim Burton-esque style going on, because the theme of the story is kind of dark, and I wanted it to have that little influence. So basically, when Marcellus was 15, he lived only with his mom, and after his dad died shortly, but his dad died just before his mom knew that she was pregnant again, and so she was just taking care of Marcellus alone, and she's about to have another child, and the baby is coming, and they live out kind of far away from the town and stuff. So when she's going into labor, they have to get her to the hospital, but it's kind of storming that night, and so the ambulance can't get to her, and she can't drive in this condition, and so Marcellus has the responsibility of getting her to the hospital safely. And so he's 15 and he's just started practicing driving, so this moment is terrifying for him. And so he's driving his pregnant mother in the storm to the hospital, and as cliche as it is, there is a wreck, and so there is a car accident that ends up killing his mother, and Marcellus is in the process of dying, and he's just this teenage boy who has so much regret and so much fear, and he's going to weigh on his conscience that, oh my gosh, I killed my mother and younger sibling. And so that brings in my other character, Vitaly. Yeah, he's just gonna do this when I hold him. But so Vitaly is my doll Chateau Pierre, and he is a Grim Reaper, and so it's his job to go and collect the souls after they die in the human world. And so he's gone to collect Marcellus's mom and siblings' soul. And when he gets there, since Marcellus is sort of, in the state of dying, but he's not dead yet, he can see Vitaly, and he begs Vitaly to save his mom and his sibling. But of course, you're not supposed to save anybody. It's against the job. But Vitaly's kind of uppity, and he doesn't care about the rules. And so he warns Marcellus that, I can do this for you. I can save your mom and your sibling. But for every life that is given, a life must be taken. So can you live with that on your conscience, knowing that you're willingly taking 2 lives of other people, and you don't know who they are? And Marcellus agrees, because all he cares about is his family at that moment. And so Vitaly ends up saving Marcellus's mom and his sibling ends up being a sister. So they make it to the hospital. The ambulance does come and sees the wreck and takes them. So so he safely has a younger sibling, which is Bay here, which is one of my Dollmore Mios. And so she is Marcellus's younger sister, who now is alive but should not be. And because she is someone who does not technically exist in the accurate timeline, she can see dead people. And so can Marcellus, because he was in that state of being near dead and having made a contract with a Grim Reaper. So they both can see dead people. And that kind of changes a child. Marcellus was older, so he could cope with it better, and since he knows the whole situation of how he saved his mom and his sister. But Bay was a baby, and so she got to see all this stuff that she didn't understand, and so she just grew up a troubled child who didn't know how to handle it. So she's kind of just this dark soul person. She doesn't get close to people, and she's easily scared of things, but also she has a really rough exterior. Despite this baby doll looking face, she sticks out for herself. And Marcellus is obsessed about protecting his younger sister because of all this stuff that happened and how hard he fought to keep her alive, and knowing that he had risked someone else's life to have her in this world. And she actually is being hunted by Grim Reapers, her and her mom, because they don't since they're not supposed to be alive, and Grim Reapers need to fix that problem because it kind of throws off the setting for everybody. They don't really know that Vidali was the one who brought them back, so he's kind of just, on the down low at work. And so the Grim Reapers do successfully take out Marcellus's mom, and they're in the process of hunting down Bay. And she manages to escape, but people keep getting caught in the crossfire. I won't go into too much detail about everything that's happening in this process. But she does run away from home that she lives with Marcellus only now because their mom died. Because she's afraid that Marcellus will get hurt because they're hunting after her. So it's been a few years now since she ran away. Marcellus is still looking for her every day. He's obsessed with finding his sister, but at the same time he still managed to maintain this semi-normal life despite seeing dead people. In fact, one of his best friends is dead, and he just has his conversations with him. And I don't have a doll for him yet. I'm still looking for this character because he's one of my funniest characters in my book, and so I really want to have him in character. And so Marcellus has a wife, and they cannot get pregnant because this is a timeline that shouldn't really be happening, and anybody brought into the world via Marcellus should not be happening. So him and his wife cannot get pregnant successfully. Like, they've had miscarriages and stillbirths, and so his wife doesn't really know anything that's going on, or that he can see dead people, and so she doesn't understand why all this is happening. And so they managed to have a son. He's an infant, and of course, as is now a habit, Grim Reapers are coming after him, and Marcellus has just had it. He's just like, I want my family. I shouldn't be paying for this constant mistake that I made. Well, not even a mistake, because he loves Bay, and he really still wants to find her. But Grim Reapers don't exactly come for babies because they're they can't go anywhere, and their soul isn't going to really wander anywhere. So they send angels of death to retrieve babies. So that is my girl Serial, who is a doll Chateau Olivia on the extra jointed youth bodies. So she is an angel of death, hence the white hair and the pale white skin, and also, since he's a Grim Reaper, he also has white skin. He doesn't have red eyes like she does. So Serial is the angel of death that comes to retrieve Marcellus's child, and he goes after her. He follows her to the afterlife to get his son's soul back. And he kind of, also because he's fascinated by her, because she actually looks very familiar to him, and he can't really see why. Like, something in him is telling him that he knows her in a way. And so he gets to the afterlife, and he's looking, well, I guess it's sort of like heaven waiting room, and he somehow finds the library, which documents everyone's life story, and each book has a different person's name on it and everything in their life that's supposed to happen. And he gets there and he's like, I need to find Bay's book. I need to find out where my sister is gone. If it's recording everything that's happening in people's lives, he will be able to find out where she is. And so, sidetracked from mission of saving his son, he goes to save his sister. Yeah, so you can see where his priorities lie. He's still kind of brother complex. Well, sister's complex. And he gets to the library, and he meets Anya here, who is my other Dollmore Mio, which is the oldest girl in my collection, so the first one I have here. And she's my favorite. And so Anya is taking care of the library. She's just a little assistant, and so he sees her and doesn't really register that she looks like his sister. I mean, as much as he's been obsessing over his sister, he just doesn't have time to really look at other people, apparently. But yeah, so why is this? And she instantly knows who he is, because she reads the books all day long, because she has nothing better to do, and she just takes care of the library. So she knows everything about his life. Also, because, not that it's really a spoiler, because you'll find it out pretty early in the book, she is the daughter that Marcellus would have had if he had continued his regular life. So, and because he had chose to save his sister, in a turn of events, he did not end up marrying the woman he should have married and having this daughter. And so she has nowhere to go, because in heaven, in my interpretation and other resources, the children's souls are still there, because they were supposed to be born. And so she just grew up in heaven, and she had no place to be, so that's why they just let her work in the library, because she was never going to be born. Because of Marcellus, he ruined things. He could have had a nice, beautiful, cute daughter. And she wants to know the man that would have been her father. And so he finds Bay's book. He steals it from the library, and also finds Serial to get his son's soul back, and he steals that and makes it back to Earth and returns his son's soul. So now he has a living son, and the Bay's book that he has to figure out how to read to find her. And because he showed up there and Anya finally got to meet him, she wants to know more about him in person. And so she leaves heaven and follows Marcellus down without his knowledge. And So he has this girl who looks like his sister, who's just hanging around him, and everyone is making the mistake that, like, oh, she must be your sister. We found her. No longer need to keep this case at the police station open to find her because she's right there. And Marcellus is literally telling them, like, no, this is not my sister. He doesn't even know that it's his daughter. So yeah, that's because these two look so close to each other. People make that mistake, and because they're basically, this is the life that was sacrificed to save his sister Bay. So he unknowingly gave up the life of his daughter when Vitali warned him. And Serial is actually the other life that he had sacrificed to save his sister and his mother. So, and she used to be human before she was an angel of death, and she was supposed to be Marcellus's wife, and so Anya is her daughter. But I mean, they're both in heaven, and because she doesn't really know the connection because she doesn't stay in the library or anything. So, and she doesn't remember her human life. So, yeah, so she's the life that was taken because of his mother. So Marcellus could have had a wife and a daughter, but instead he saved his sister and his mom. And so the story is sort of about what would you do if you knew the choices you could make, like the alternatives and what's going to happen in the long run type thing. Would you have made a different decision or made the same decision? So it's sort of like his inner conflict with having having a sister or having a daughter, because he loves his sister and having known her and stuff, and his daughter is now a stranger, so he couldn't possibly know what he would like. But yeah, so it's a very convoluted story and hard to explain in depth through video, so that's why it's a book. And I hope it's an interesting book for people to read. I hope this sounded interesting listening to, and it's kind of confusing to explain right now, so when you read it, hopefully it's more understandable of everything that's going on, especially because there's other characters involved that make things interesting. So like Vitali and his ulterior motives with having helped Marcellus, and just how Serial feels about not getting the life that she should have had once she finds out, and just everyone's reactions to this. So that's a brief bio of everything, and I will do other videos of everyone else's stories. Like there's other groups to do. So this was just my first one of 5 of my dolls, and I will put up more later. So thanks for listening, hope it was interesting, and see you next time.